All right, guys, so here I am again with another boring video about infrastructure. Okay, but as I like to tell you guys, this channel is about policy discussions, okay, mixed in with a little bit of the drama, okay, the drama of politics. But this infrastructure spending bill that Joe Biden has released is basically a liberal's wish list, right? However, for the so-called progressives, it doesn't go far enough, as AOC has said that it's too small, right? Spending $2.2 trillion on God knows what and for liberal pet projects on a bill that is mostly going to be written by Washington bureaucrats and lobbyists to, again, fund their pet projects. Apparently to AOC is not enough, okay? Because she came out and said, again, it needs to be bigger. That's something that she should be telling her boyfriend, not the federal government. And because she said this at the crack of dawn yesterday, I'm pretty sure she hasn't even had time to read the plan. She just looked at the price tag and said, again, it's not enough. As the progressives have proposed spending $10 trillion over 10 years. That's right, $1 trillion a year on infrastructure spending for 10 years straight. You heard it. The progressives said $10 trillion. God. And herein lies the problem with the progressive ideology and also the liberal ideology, which is becoming increasingly more progressive, is that they believe that because they're spending somebody else's money, that they have an unlimited amount of it. And what tends to happen when you're spending somebody else's money is that you don't pay attention to the details, okay? You don't pay attention to what actually needs to be fixed, what infrastructure needs to be addressed, right? For example, there's nothing currently wrong with our bus fleet. However, Joe Biden has committed to replacing our bus fleet with all electric vehicles, right? Electric buses, okay? And they do this because they say that it's going to help us reduce emissions and electrify our economy into this new green country that is going to lead the world in fighting climate change. Now, again, obviously this is a progressive dream, and that's basically what it is. It's just a dream. I've been very generous to Joe Biden in regards to his infrastructure plans because I do personally believe that, this is a bipartisan issue and that, some infrastructure spending is legitimate. However, the issue is that, like always, when it comes to these Democratic plans, they want to go too far. And Mitch McConnell has responded to Joe Biden in regards to this proposed infrastructure spending. So let's listen to Joe Biden talk about his plan and what he thinks the goals and outcomes is going to be. And then we're going to listen to Mitch McConnell and his response to Biden's infrastructure plan. Take a listen.
In the winter, everybody gets to come along. So today, I'm proposing a plan for the nation that rewards work, not just rewards wealth. It builds a fair economy that gives everybody a chance to succeed. And it's going to create the strongest, most resilient, innovative economy in the world. It's not a plan that tinkers around the edges. It's a once-in-a-generation investment in America, unlike anything we've seen or done since we built the interstate highway system and the space race decades ago. In fact, it's the largest American jobs investment since World War II. It will create millions of jobs, good-paying jobs. It will grow the economy, make us more competitive around the world, promote our national security interests, and put us in a position to win the global competition with China in the upcoming years. It's big, yes. It's bold, yes. And we can get it done. It has two parts: the American Jobs Plan and the American Families Plan.
All right, guys, so that was Joe Biden, right? He says that this is going to be jobs focused, okay? And Mitch McConnell, on the other hand, has a rebuttal for this. So we're going to go ahead and take a listen to Mitch McConnell's rebuttal.
My advice to the administration is, if you want to do an infrastructure bill, let's do an infrastructure bill. Let's don't turn it into a massive effort to raise taxes on businesses and individuals. Let me take you back just a year ago. In February of 2020, our country had the best economy it had had in 50 years. 50 years. As a result, largely of the tax reductions that we passed in 2017, which stimulated an enormous growth of business. Unemployment was at an all-time low for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, all Americans. 50-year low. Now they want to, in the guise of infrastructure, completely undo that and raise the rates, which I think will have a significant dampening effect on the economy. The short answer is I'd love to do an infrastructure bill. I'm not interested in raising taxes across the board on America. I think it will send our economy in the wrong direction. Hopefully, they don't choose that path, but they may.
All right, guys, so that's Mitch McConnell, right? What Mitch McConnell is basically saying is the same thing he always says, right? Is that this bill needs to be more targeted in that if you want to do infrastructure, let's do infrastructure. But it has to be roads and bridges. And it just can't be a liberal wish list funded by tax increases that are going to hurt everyday working Americans. Now, I think that McConnell has a good point here, right? Because the liberals and progressives love to use the American Society of Civil Engineers estimates in regards to what they think the current state of U.S. infrastructure is, right? In which, you know, I went over with you guys. They're calling for about $2.5 trillion to be spent over 10 years for infrastructure upgrades, right? Because they say that it is crumbling. They gave it a C-. However, there are counter arguments to this, okay? Because there has been studies, right, that have shown that our infrastructure is in fact not crumbling, and that the condition of our interstate highways has actually improved over recent decades, and our buses have gotten younger on average, and the quality of our bridges has remained steady, right? And that, you know, we're doing pretty decent when it comes to an international context, right? And this study that outlines basically a counter argument to infrastructure spending was done by 3 economists, right? 2 of them at Brown and 1 of them at the University of Pennsylvania. Okay, so it's not exactly coming from a right-wing think tank. And I think that these arguments do hold water, right? Because what happens is that when it comes to a lot of these Democrat initiatives, right, a lot of it is just throwing money at a problem, right? And that's the problem with big government, right? Big government likes to throw money at a problem because people like to see this nice price tag, right? And they want to see this new bridge be built, bridges built to nowhere, right? In which politicians can go out there and cut a ribbon and announce that, hey, listen, look, we built something, right? Even if the return on investment for what is being built is negative, right? Nobody ever uses it, and then it deteriorates over time, and then we have to rebuild it, right? That's just kind of how it goes. Now, here's the thing, though. When it comes to the Republican Party, I've said this before, I am not going to give them a pass to just do nothing, okay? And the reason why is because I take a more reasonable approach in the sense that I do expect the Republican Party to do stuff, but I expect them to do stuff in a way that's actually cost efficient, has a positive return on investment, and that focuses on solving real problems. Obviously, there are roads and bridges in America that needs to be replaced, that need to be fixed, okay? However, what that doesn't mean is that we have to go through and rebuild roads and rebuild bridges just for the sake of doing it. Because if a majority of our infrastructure is in good condition, there's no need to just be having a government project just to have a government project. All that does is best case scenario, it creates short temporary jobs, and basically you're just handing money to the rich. For example, you already have companies like Amtrak who are begging the federal government, please give us some money so we can build some railroads from Chicago to New Orleans that are going to take 15 hours, right? When you can take a flight that's going to take 2.5 hours, okay? And we're not even talking about high speed rail or bullet trains or anything like that. We talking about snail rail. Okay? We talking about snail rail. This is what I'm talking about. Inefficient. Again, just a handout to the rich, right? Which is exactly what the Biden administration is trying to do when it comes to, this electric vehicle initiative. Okay? There's a strong argument to be made that we're just not there yet with the electric technology, right? We're not there yet with the batteries, and it's not as efficient as it could be, right? It's not ready for a full rollout of commercialization, okay? It's just not, right? And more government spending on this type of stuff really is just, again, handing more money to the likes of Elon Musk. The same people that Bernie Sanders likes to go out and rail against as are not paying enough in taxes and not paying their fair share will turn around and endorse a bill like this that just hands Elon Musk more money, right? The only people right now that can afford to buy Teslas are those that are rich, okay? And again, subsidizing these companies is only going to continue to benefit the rich. Okay. And guys, I'm not one of those people that, again, don't believe in climate change. Obviously, I do, right? I've talked about this on multiple occasions. However, I vehemently reject the liberal proposals for trying to fight climate change. I don't believe climate change is something that needs to be fought, right? I think it's something that we should prepare for, but it probably is not going to make a big difference to try to fight it. That is the difference between my ideology and the progressive / liberal ideology on this subject. I don't think that we're in dire need of trying to reduce emissions to zero at this point, right? Because if the world is not doing it, then we're basically sacrificing our economy in order to basically achieve nothing, just to say that, hey, we have low emissions and everybody else is still doing their thing and no problem really gets solved, right? It's the free rider problem, right? It's a classic free rider problem, right? And again, so back to the Republican solution on this, right? I think what the Republicans need to do is that they need to present their own proposal, right? That's more cost friendly, that's more targeted, and that's more focused on pressing issues, right? The Republicans can be the party of clean energy, right? Because those who are serious about addressing some of these problems, right, should probably be endorsing nuclear energy, right? I think that is one proposal that the Republicans could try to push that I think would accomplish the goal of America being more energy independent and also having more clean energy, right? As net emissions from nuclear energy is basically the same as wind energy, okay? So I think there is room, right, to make this thing better. But overall, I think that the Republicans need to play the role of trying to drive the cost down on this. Now, a lot of you guys may say, well, how do they do that? Because the Democrats can basically pass this through reconciliation if they want, without any Republican support. And I'll say this. I think that regardless of whether or not the Democrats choose to just go for this, right, without Republican support at all, I think it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, I still want to see a Republican plan, right? I'm sick of the whole Republican stance of let's just rail against the Democrats and propose no solutions to the problem, okay? Because obviously there's work that can be done here, right? There's bipartisan agreement, which means that there probably is legitimate work to be done here. And because of that, the Republicans need to have their own solutions, right? The Democrats obviously may not be in a position where they may be willing to negotiate, right? They may just want to throw money at the problem, right, and run up the debt, and they may do that without the Republicans. However, at the end of the day, the Republicans still should set the example for what should be done, okay? To have a platform to say this is what we should do, and this is how we do it in a way that is responsible, okay? And at the very least, it seems like the Democrats are going to try to work with Republicans. And from a PR standpoint, McConnell seems to already be letting Biden outflank him on that because Biden had to make a phone call to McConnell regarding this bill instead of McConnell making a phone call the other way, right? In which I've advocated that McConnell needs to take more of a proactive role in trying to work with the Democrats because, again, whittling down a Democrat bill, at least even a little bit, is better than not doing it at all. Okay, if you can reduce this bill down to maybe 1.5 trillion, maybe 1 trillion, you may not necessarily get rid of all the wasteful spending that comes with the Biden bill, but at the very least, right, you will make it more efficient, and you could also make it more targeted. I think there is bipartisan room for that. Okay, and at the end of the day, if the Democrats decide that, you know what, we're just gonna go at it alone, then let them have it, right? Let them have it. But at the very least, I want to see the Republicans live up to their word, right? Live up to Mitch McConnell's word, and actually put in an effort to have a Republican plan, right? I don't want this to end up being like healthcare, right? Well, the Republicans talk about healthcare. Everybody knows that healthcare costs are rising, right? I was literally just talking to a health insurance broker the other day about basically a nightmare scenario in which, you know, a 44-year-old with diabetes who had a high income was not eligible for the Obamacare subsidy. Also, the private insurance market would not cover him as well, and then he basically had to end up paying $800 or $900 a month for healthcare, right? Which is ridiculous, right? That's ridiculous. And with healthcare, I think there is a Republican solution, a conservative solution that can help drive down costs that can make this thing feasible, right? And just like healthcare, I think that's possible with infrastructure as well, right? And some of that could come in the form of removing the red tape, right? Removing how long it takes for some of these projects to get approved of because of environmental regulations and things of that nature. Getting rid of the red tape can bring down the cost. That is notoriously one of the reasons why these infrastructure plans cost so much, right? Government red tape in the first place, right? The requirements that a lot of these companies have to meet in order to get these federal funds, these federal contracts that really just drive prices up. So in conclusion, I do think that the infrastructure problem is a problem that should be addressed. Is it as overblown as the progressives make it out to be? I don't think so, right? Although there's a debate to be had there. But regardless, I do think that we can make some progress on this without breaking the bank. I don't think we need to spend $2.2 trillion to do it. I think we can do it in a way that is deficit neutral. And that can probably be done by reducing some spending in other areas as well without necessarily raising taxes, right? Because that's also the other part of this equation. Joe Biden wanted to raise corporate tax rate, which in and of itself is a whole nother conversation. Okay, so we'll see what happens moving forward here. Obviously, I'm going to be covering this more to see exactly what happens in regards to negotiations. But as of right now, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.